Dr. Brian Jenks from the North Central Research Extension Center, a weed scientist, is going to talk about herbicide weed management.
All right, thank you. I'd like to thank the Dickinson Research Center for providing what my weed science friends call job security. we do our best in Minot too. If you come to Minot, you'll see a lot worse than this. Okay, so you guys have had it too easy. Time for a quiz. What is this weed? I heard kochia and I heard mare's tail. Mare's tail it is. Okay, or horseweed. Okay, and this one, kochia. All right. When does mare's tail or horseweed emerge? Primarily fall. Not 100%, but pretty close. In other states in the Midwest, you get a little bit more emerging in the spring. Here, it's primarily fall. Okay, so let's say this emerges September 15th. We get some July, August rains. This plant emerges, so it's a winter annual. It emerges September 15th. We see a little rosette. We put our Valor on a month later. Did we control it?
No.
No. Why? It's already germinated. Valor does not control a germinated plant. For Valor to work, it has to be activated, has to be applied and activated in the soil before this plant germinates. So, kochia, when does it emerge? Spring. Primarily spring. So if we put, when do we want to put our Valor on then? Do we want it in September?
Sure, October.
Preferably October. So if we're targeting kochia, if we're targeting kochia, I forgot which hand the speaker's in. If we're targeting kochia, we want it as late as possible.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that it can sit on the surface and control the kochia as it emerges in the spring. But if we're targeting winter annuals like horseweed or mare's tail, we need that Valor on earlier. And when could the problem with that is, when do we apply the Valor? So we don't know when that plant is going to emerge. It could be September 1. It could be October 1. It depends on when the rains come. So what should you do when you're targeting mare's tail? What should you do besides apply the Valor?
Burn down.
You got to have a burn down product with it, because the Valor is not going to control what's up. It will only control what will emerge later. So you need a product with the Valor to control what's up at the time of application. That might be a 2,4-D, a Sharpen. How about Roundup?
Probably weak.
Probably not anymore. Most of our mare's tail is resistant to Roundup. So we need something like a 2,4-D, dicamba, Sharpen, etc. Okay, so if you get a whole bunch of mare's tail emerging in the spring, it might have been because you mistimed or misapplied something. Now, the reason why we want to target this in the fall is because this is a beast to control in the spring. It is extremely difficult to control in the spring with some of our burn down products. This will, if this is past the rosette stage, AIM won't control it, Sharpen won't control it, even some of our other burn down products won't be totally effective. If we get it early enough, a Gramoxone, a 2,4-D, a Sharpen will control it, but it's got to be before it elongates too much. Any questions on mare's tail or horseweed?
How about affinity?
Affinity won't control this. Okay, Thank you. Okay, oh, also kochia. What is the best thing that you can do that doesn't cost you a penny? And all you have to do is go like this. Take these leaves, throw them in an envelope, and send them to the genotyping center in Fargo. That will tell you if you've got group 14 resistance or not. You throw the you get an envelope from the extension office, and I think all extension offices have an envelope that's stamped envelope. All you got to do is put this in the little coin envelopes. There's 4 of them, so you can take 4 fields, take some kochia, send it to the genotyping center. Within a week, you get results to know if it's Roundup resistant or excuse me, group 14 resistant or not. So group 14s, we're talking about Sharpen, Aim, Valor, Spartan. And it is very key to know if you've got resistance or not, because you know the kochia is resistant to Roundup. But if you're used to using, say, Sharpen and or Roundup and Sharpen, Roundup and Aim, those aren't going to work anymore on this kochia. And we've documented at least about 80-85% of the counties in the state have the resistant kochia, and the other 15% probably have it too. We just haven't tested those counties. So, but the other thing is, if we talked about using Valor to control the horseweed. Well, Valor used to be really good on kochia. If it's group 14 resistant, it's not going to get the kochia anymore. In some of our testing, it's been like water. So that's why it's important for you to send your kochia samples to Fargo and get them tested, so that you don't waste a bunch of money. Any questions on kochia and the resistance testing?
Brian, does rate make a difference anymore with Valor and kochia?
Question is, does rate make a difference with Valor and Spartan? With Valor, it really has looked like water, no matter what rate we put on. With Spartan, I say still use it, because we see 20, sometimes we see as much as 80% control still, but as low as 20. So and you're going to control other weeds with Valor and Spartan, so still use them. But if you know you've got resistance, then that tells you you've got to have another plan besides the Valor and Spartan. Okay, because we struggled controlling kochia in the spring, if you've got Roundup resistance, group 14 resistance, group 2 resistance, in some cases, in front of some crops, our only choice is Gramoxone. We don't know how much longer we're going to have that. But sometimes you get certain conditions, and Gramoxone doesn't necessarily work great either. This year we had some really cool temps up in the northern part of the state, and the Gramoxone didn't work so well. 55 degrees isn't so great. So I want to quiz you, if you've sprayed Gramoxone, do you see a certain weed or two come through the Gramoxone? Common mallow, bindweed. Any others? One I see a lot is lamb's quarters. Buckwheat. I don't know if you have green flower pepperweed, but we got lots to share. But Gramoxone struggles with green flower pepperweed, which is a mustard. And so we did a study to see if since we know that Gramoxone is weak on lamb's quarters, is there something else we can add to the tank that will increase control? And we found yes. We could add Sharpen, Metribuzin, Affinity, 2,4-D, and Dicamba to help us control lamb's quarters. The other species like Dicamba, as you probably know, Dicamba isn't good on mustards, so it wouldn't help there, but it would help on lamb's quarters. Okay, let's talk about wheat. The new herbicide that we started using last year is Tolvera, In my experience, Tolvera has been working very well. If you if you get it applied early, don't let the kochia and other weeds get more than 3 inches tall, preferably. The other good thing about Tolvera is with our Group 1 and Group 2 resistant green foxtail. This has been doing very well on that Group 1 and Group 2 resistant foxtail. We've got a lot of growers in the state that don't have a lot of wheat growers that no longer have any choice. They're resistant to everything, including Select, including clethodim. And so Tolvera is like manna from heaven to be able to come in and control that green foxtail. Let's talk canola. Liberty. Liberty, there's probably about, I would say at least 80% of the canola in the state is Liberty canola. So quiz time. The temperature is 95 degrees. Liberty likes warm, right? 95 degrees, 17% humidity. How did the Liberty work on the weeds?
Not worth a damn.
That's exactly right. Doesn't work well. Liberty doesn't like 95 degrees. That's too hot. Plus, but more importantly, and if there's one of the factors that's probably more important is probably the humidity. Liberty doesn't like 17% humidity. It prefers more like 30 to 40% humidity. Now, you don't have any control over the weather, but if it's 95 degrees and 17% humidity, you know it's not going to control it. Can you wait a couple of days until the weather changes to be certain that the Liberty is going to be a little bit more effective? Okay, to control kochia. Let's say you've got the Group 14 resistant kochia. And Valor is like water, which in some cases it is. We could go back to the old Sonalan, Treflan, apply the old granules, but that's not great control either. It's usually somewhere in that maybe 50 to 80% control range. One herbicide that we tried for years to make work in the spring, Zidua or Anthem Flex, I worked with it for years, didn't get great control in the spring. Maybe further east they can get better control because they get more moisture. Out here in the west, okay, Zidua is not very water soluble, and it needs a good half to 1 inch of rain to be activated. And if you don't get that rain before the weeds germinate, you're not going to get great control. So we've been testing Zidua or Anthem Flex in the fall, and it has been working quite well. Not super well, but for example, with Zidua or Anthem Flex, with the equivalent of about 4 ounces, we've been getting 70 to 90% control of kochia from a fall application. And then the good thing is, for those who have wild oat, and just for what I said for green foxtail, where we've got a lot of farmers who have 0 options, they're going back to the old Fargo from decades ago. But here we can't use Fargo because we're no-till. Fargo has to be incorporated. But Zidua has been giving us about, with 4 ounces of Zidua, with the work done by Kirk Howitt in Fargo and Caleb Daly at Hettinger, showing about 80-85% wild oat control from a fall application of Zidua or Anthem Flex. So keep that in mind. Okay, metribuzin. Metribuzin, I've been encouraging growers to use more metribuzin across the state because it is very good on kochia. It's a different mode of action. However, what do we have to be concerned about out here in the west with metribuzin? pH, organic matter, texture. Because metribuzin is extremely active, say in a sandy loam, pH of 8, organic matter 2. That's probably not a good fit for metribuzin. A better fit for metribuzin is probably a loam soil, organic matter preferably if you can 3 or higher, and then a pH preferably less than 7. Now, you may not have that soil, and if there was the word sandy in your soil texture, don't use it. But where you can use it in the right soil, it can help you a lot with kochia control. So keep that in mind. Now, the other reason I want to bring up metribuzin is I do get questions every year about, okay, I use metribuzin in my soybean, and then I want to come back to, say, another broadleaf crop instead of going to a grass crop. Maybe something like canola, flax, sunflower, safflower, dry bean. I get those questions, but the rotation restriction is 18 months. I personally think it's too long. I think they haven't done the research. So we're doing the research. We've got 2 years of data where we planted all those crops a year following metribuzin, and we're not seeing any injury. So I'm not promoting it, don't do it off label, but it tells me that we've got enough data, and I've shared this with the companies, and they're considering it now more seriously to, okay, can we make a label change and allow some of these other crops to be grown 1 year following metribuzin use. We're doing the same thing with atrazine. Okay, last thing before I open for questions. A weed that you need to be looking for is water hemp. If you think water hemp is a problem in the eastern part of the state where they're growing corn and soybeans, just think about trying to control water hemp in peas and lentils, chickpeas, flax, sunflower. We have no options. So we need to be vigilant. Okay, remember a few years ago we put Palmer amaranth on the noxious weed list. The reason for that, from our perspective, was to bring attention to it, knock it out before it gets started and takes over. We have actually been, that was one of the most successful things that we ever did. Because out of the, 20 counties where it was found, to my knowledge, it's only in about 3 or 4 counties left, and that's because it came in with the sunflower screenings, and cattle spread it all over the place. Now we're not going to be able to put water hemp on the noxious weed list because it's everywhere already, so it's not going to help us. But in the western part of the state, we need to be vigilant and make sure that we're looking for it, and if we see it, we pull it. We don't combine through it. So if you see some tall pigweeds around, say, end of August into early September, be looking for those. The way you identify water hemp is there's no hair on the stems or leaves, and the leaves are narrow, as opposed to a red root pigweed, which is very hairy all over and has much wider leaves. Because I've been so busy, I didn't get a news release out, but it was found in multiple locations in Ward County this year. Some very on-the-ball agronomists found it, and if you look at most pigweed cotyledons, they're very long and narrow. But water hemp, the cotyledons are egg-shaped, so you can distinguish them really early. So anyway, that's my plug for watch out for water hemp. Water hemp is resistant to many different modes of action. There's no way we're going to control it in our minor crops, so we got to keep it out of the western part of the state. I'll open it up for questions.
For that metribuzin rotation, do you think that's going to be soil type specific?
Of Question for metribuzin, will it be soil type specific? Absolutely. Yes. Anytime we use metribuzin, we have to know our soil characteristics because there are some soils where it just should not be used.
I meant for like planting to sunflower.
Oh, yeah.
or-
Yes. 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 It might still be. It might still have a restriction going to like a sandy loam. Now, this year I did put our trial on a sandy loam. I'm not seeing any injury, but it'll be up to the company to make the decision. I think they need to play it safe and keep it off a sandy loam, even though I'm not seeing injury this year. Maybe my organic matter might be too high. You know, it might, even though I've got a sandy loam, my organic matter is probably at least 3. What if you put it on a sandy loam with organic matter 1.5? We might get in trouble there. Or a pH, you know, the higher the pH, the longer it's going to stick around. So I think there still will be some restrictions. Any other questions?
We didn't talk about Liberty, at least 20 gallons, a double spray tip, and 4 gallons or 4 pounds of ammonium sulfate is a must.
Okay, his comment was Liberty, 20 gallons an acre. Yes, we got to have water volume. And you said 4 pounds of AMS. Label says 3.
Right? Throw it in.
You say 4, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, with Liberty, think of how much Liberty we use in the state. It goes on probably 80% of our canola acres. It goes on a significant amount of soybean acres. We have got to be good stewards of this product because if we lose Liberty, what are you going to do on canola? You got nothing. So let's be good stewards of this product.
Another question, AIM is a burn down?
Yes, AIM is a burn down product.
Is it, what group is that?
Group 14.
14. Okay.
Yep. So with this group 14 resistant kochia, it doesn't do anything. And we've put on 100x rate and doesn't matter the rate.
Brian, back to Liberty for a second. In low humidity, do you see a benefit of adding HSOC?
Question is, with Liberty and low humidity conditions, could there be a benefit of adding HSMOC? Maybe a little bit, but I think the humidity is just such an overriding factor. I don't know that surfactant is going to be enough. My hunch is no. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.